Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know, really wanna know.
For this year's 4th of July weekend, my boyfriend and I decided to go hiking in the beautiful Governor Dodge State Park. This is a 5,200 acre park outside of Dodgeville, Wisconsin, and it was absolutely gorgeous. The weather was perfect, the company was lovely, and everything just sort of seemed to fall into place. This is actually a two-part video because our trip was so long and so full of these beautiful images. I wanted to capture it completely. So in the first video, I'm going to share with you all of the whole food, plant-based food preparation that I put into place the night prior to make sure that we had healthy meals for our trip. And then I'm going to show you day one of our hike. And then in the second video, you can watch the final portion of our hike, but also how I managed to stay on track with my fitness and all the other wonderful things that our weekend entailed. The evening prior to leaving for our trip, I was able to make several of these Instant Pot meals. This one in particular is so easy. It's just a couple different types of grain, a couple different lentils, as well as some seasonings and mushrooms. I cooked this on the manual mode for about 3 minutes, and you can do this with just about any grain, any lentil, and mushrooms always seem to give it that extra like meaty texture that a lot of people look for. So particularly when I'm going on vacation with my boyfriend, I try to include mushrooms in all of our meals to make sure he gets that texture, that sensory experience. So I tend to saute my veggies separately, or I will separately cook them in the pressure cooker just to make sure they don't get too overcooked. So here are some mixed veggies I just grabbed out of the freezer and sauteed quickly prior to including them in the grain and lentil dish. Next, I boiled about 3 different bags of frozen edamame to make sure we had plenty of protein and those healthy fats in soybeans. I also stir-fried these additional veggies to throw into a curry sweet potato dish. I actually forgot to season these, but surprisingly enough, after I threw the curry on after cooking, they still tasted just as delicious. To finish the rest of the sweet potato dish, I cut up each of these, I believe it was 3 sweet potatoes, in approximately the same size cubes to make sure they all cook evenly. Unfortunately, the bottom of the pressure cooker tends to cook the ingredients a little bit more heavily than the ingredients on top away from the heat source. So it's just something you want to keep in mind. I manually cook these for 6 minutes, but I make sure to leave the keep warm setting off. But also, it's important to manually release the pressure and let the sweet potatoes out to cool prior to the pressure cooker naturally releasing the pressure. I can always tell when these are fully cooked when you can kind of see the skins peeling off a little bit, but you'll also notice a slight discoloration from the uncooked sweet potato. These are a little bit more orange in hue. And then if you poke them with a fork, just like a regular potato, if you can puncture the potato all the way through with ease, then you know your potatoes are ready. To complete this dish, I added the sauteed veggies as well as the curry powder that I had forgot to put in originally. Also, I believe I threw some sesame seeds in this dish to give it some extra fatty acids. So I just mixed these together and it always comes out delicious. It really doesn't matter how you season them or what kind of veggies you use or what kind of potatoes or grains. All of these foods mixed together very, very complementary. So you never have to stress about, does this go with this or is this going to make this taste bad? For the morning of our trip, I had everything prepped ahead of time and ready to go. It was a little stressful the night before, but it was very much worth the effort. And now my family had meals to hold them over for the entire weekend. We saved a ton of money and everybody ate healthy. Well, aside from my boyfriend for the most part, but you'll see that later in the video. So those were my salads and plenty of tomatoes to put on top, as well as the vinegar, a lot of fruit, the apples, the pears. This is one of the dishes I made last night. Actually, it's both of them thrown together. And then there's the edamame and a second dish of edamame because that's everybody's favorite, and some kidney beans that I already had batch prep prior. So this is my daughter's stack. She gets plenty of nuts for her diet, and that's the sweet potato curry dish. This is her oatmeal with lots of chia seeds and beans. And finally, at the bottom, this is the grain mixture with the lentils and the mushrooms and the veggies. I also made sure to include some silverware and a sharp knife for our trip. The country mix, trail mix right here, that's for my boyfriend exclusively. These are the seasonings I put on top of my salad, along with plenty of flax and nutritional yeast. That's the sweet potato dish and the grain mixtures that I'm bringing along for my boyfriend and I. And of course, I have a giant bag of raw vegetables to break my fast every morning. I was recently sent these lunch bags by a company called Lunch Skins. The reason why I decided to go ahead with their product is because all of their proceeds go towards a donation to help clean up the oceans of all the plastic. So obviously I'm trying to get rid of as much plastic use as possible. So these were really helpful for that. Unfortunately, they are made mostly of polyester, which I'm not a huge fan of. I would love my food to be stored in something organic and preferably like a cotton material. So I'm still on the lookout for that. But for now, these are really helpful with the zipper, and they tend to keep your food fairly fresh. So I packed lots of strawberries and grapes and such in these particular bags to bring with us.
Are you excited to go to Grandma's? It's a movie, honey. It's not a picture.
No, I want to see the movie.
Somehow we made it out of there on time at about 8:30 in the morning. We are heading out to Ayana's grandparents' house to drop her off for the weekend, and the pups are going to my dear friend Susie's place for the weekend as well.
I've been trying my best for a while, trying to please everyone who's around me. I've been putting on a fake smile, even though I'm wasting time. I don't want to be trapped in a box, trying to be like the rest when I'm not. I just want to go my own way, gonna let the past burn down, cause honestly don't wanna be stuck in boring conversations with you. I'm gonna leave it all behind, find myself, I'm gonna start over new. Yeah, I'm on my way now. I'm on my way now. I'm on my way now.
After dropping off Ayana and the puppies, we drove another hour west to reach our destination. This happens to be a very popular state park in Wisconsin, particularly for its waterfall attraction. So Justin and I were really enthusiastic to get going, regardless of the humidity. It was so hot this day. As you can see, this park offers miles and miles of different hiking options for people. Justin had his heart set on hiking towards the cave, so we decided to do that on day one, and then the next day we'll do the waterfall because they are in two very separate locations in the park. Let me see you. What are you eating? Quick Trip. Yes, my boyfriend eats very, very differently than I do, but we don't let that impact our relationship. We've lived together for nearly 5 years now, and he is slowly incorporating more and more healthful foods into his diet, but to each their own. He's on his own journey. It's just slightly hotter than we had planned. But that's okay. There's some beautiful trails. Justin's got to see this cave. It's supposed to be pretty spectacular. It's gonna be a beautiful weekend.
A new place, a new home for a while. Let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back. Take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by. Life is good, best I've ever felt. Get me up, somewhere new, somewhere I can find myself. Oh, I feel so alive.
We're almost to the cave. Right up this way. Finally getting some altitude. All right, we have arrived. Here's our cave.
At times I know I'll be okay, 'cause I found my way.
Pretty cool.
'Cause I found my way.
Love you. This is in this cave. Oh, people actually crawl in there? No, thank you. What's that movie called? Have you ever seen that movie in that cave? The Descent. If you've ever seen The Descent, you will never walk in there. I realize that these shots do not do it justice, but at points we were climbing at about a 90-degree incline and what seemed like complete sand. So as we took each step, our feet would just fall beneath us over and over and over until we finally got to the top of this massive rock formation. But it was so worth it. This was absolutely gorgeous. The view up here was breathtaking.
'Cause I found my way, my way, my way.
By this point, our trail had completely disappeared and we had to traverse our own. But as you can see, going down was just as difficult, if not maybe even more a little dangerous than going up. But it was so much fun. When we finally reached the bottom and finished up with Cave Trail, we found our way over to Meadow Valley Trail and did that loop, which was about 2.5 miles until we got back to the vehicle. So we were more than satisfied with this day. So pretty out here.
What?
You did good, babe. This is a good trail. We finally made it. It's 83 degrees. We only hiked for about 3.5 hours, but it feels like a heck of a lot more in this humidity. We are on our way back to the hotel. We're gonna check in, eat, shower. We're gonna find plenty of things to do when we get back. This particular area of the state is quite popular because this is where Frank Lloyd Wright grew up. He's a famous architect from the late 1800s into about the 1950s. So you will see a number of different pieces that he either contributed to, influenced, or completely designed. So some of the things you see along here are what we encountered along the way to our hotel room. Our hotel room itself was also influenced by Frank Lloyd Wright's designs, and it was filled with photographs and drawings and paintings of his different works of art. So it was quite the experience. It's cute, quaint, musky. But it has a fridge, so that's all I was looking for. Which way is it open? Oh, it doesn't have a freezer area. For anybody who is unfamiliar with traveling with their own food, I was frustrated with this fridge because it doesn't have a freezer portion on the top like some of them tend to have. because I need that to keep my freezer packs cold for all the food that we don't eat so I can take it home without ruining it in the process. All right, for dinner, I have my salad that I made last night. There's mushrooms in there somewhere. Tomatoes, white wine vinegar, and my beans. This is just a mixture of different herbs and spices to flavor my salad and kind of build a dressing. But there's also nutritional yeast and plenty of ground flaxseed for those omega-3s. I added the flax and these beans to restore my energy reserves after that long hike. Vinegar is not only super flavorful and healthy, but it's also really easy to travel with. You don't have to worry about keeping it refrigerated. So Justin doesn't tend to typically eat the way I do. Tonight he wanted something non-plant-based, so we went to the only local restaurant in town, and it was actually really lovely. Of course the menu didn't have anything on it that I could eat, but which was fine because I didn't plan on eating here. That's why I ate dinner at the hotel prior to arriving. But nonetheless, I still enjoyed his company, and there was live music, so it was a really, like I said, really lovely evening. I don't know how anybody affords restaurant food on a regular basis. This cost probably the equivalent of a week's worth of my lunches in just one single meal for my boyfriend. I am so fortunate that this food no longer appeals to me in any way, shape, or form. To each their own. I absolutely love live music. Even if it's not my favorite genre, there's always something I can appreciate about watching people play instruments. And this location was great because we got to see the river and watch the sunset. And did I mention how much my boyfriend and I love to dance? Even if we look super goofy while we're doing it? So this is where I'll leave you guys with the first portion of this video. The second half will come out next week, and I will link that here as soon as it's available.